One of the Slavic tribes, a part of the great family of people with a slandered past, is now known as the Yugoslavs. It was in Yugoslavia in 1856, during a terrifying thunderstorm, that a child was born, a boy naturally named Nikola. After all, it was widely believed that thunder accompanied the chariot of Saint Nicholas as it rode through the clouds. Strangely enough, he was born precisely during a thunderclap. A mere coincidence? From childhood, the boy was frail and highly sensitive. Even his father doubted he would survive and considered sending him to a monastery, placing his hopes instead on Nicola's older brother. Unfortunately, tragedy struck and his older brother died. Soon after, the impressionable young Nicola fell ill with cholera. At the time, very few survived such an illness, and given his frail constitution, he seemed doomed. After spending more than 6 months bedridden, he eventually recovered, but he became even stranger. He could hear thunderclaps from dozens of miles away. The flight of a fly in a nearby room irritated him terribly. He could hear the ticking of a guest's pocket watch in the courtyard, though his father never owned a watch. They lived in poverty. His father tried to persuade Nicola to become a priest, believing that his son's passion for books and knowledge would suit such a path. But Nicola chose a different road, one that led him to the exact sciences, especially mathematics. Now the question is, what fate awaited this strange child? A boy who lived far from cities, capitals, and universities. A child who had repeatedly stared death in the face. And what does his destiny have to do with prophets and seers? Interestingly, many well-known clairvoyants and prophets, such as Vanga, Wolf Messing, and Edgar Cayce, shared similar traits. They all stood on the edge of life and death. They all had fragile health. As the saying goes, when you lose something, you gain something in return. And so it was with our young Nicola. He survived cholera. But for the rest of his life, he was plagued by strange visions, flashes of lightning before his eyes that blinded him and forced him to stop, unable to distinguish reality from illusion. Yet, in return, nature, or perhaps the Creator, granted him an extraordinary ability. He had access to a channel of communication with an invisible realm, a world of information, and he learned to interact with it. While Dmitri Mendeleev discovered his periodic table in a dream, Nikola Tesla didn't need to sleep. He could access the vast storage of ideas and interconnected laws of the universe while fully awake. Furthermore, he possessed a photographic memory, claiming to recall every page of every book he had ever read. But what was even more astonishing was his ability to conceptualize inventions in their entirety. Unlike other inventors who had to go through multiple prototypes, discarding flawed designs. Along the way, Nikola saw his creations fully formed in his mind. He could test them mentally, running experiments in his imagination. He called this process brain engineering. Yes, you guessed it right. We are talking about Nikola Tesla. A genius who was ahead of his time, but at the same time a clairvoyant, a man with an extraordinary gift of receiving information from beyond, or at least he believed so. Upon arriving in the United States in 1884, he worked for various companies, including Thomas Edison's and even dug ditches for $2 a day. He invented the radio, claimed he could transmit energy wirelessly across vast distances, but never received a Nobel Prize. Many of his discoveries were quickly patented by others. After his death, some of his inventions were officially recognized as his. But what good is acknowledgement to a dead man? Tesla was financed by the wealthiest men of his time, including J.P. Morgan, but his projects required enormous investments, and the benefits of his inventions would go to the people, not the investors. Imagine if you invented a solar power station with a battery. What would stop every farmer from installing a mini generator on their land? Who would then buy oil, coal, or gasoline? What use are such discoveries when the financial returns are so slow? This is why the powerful turned their backs on him. Yes, we must admit that the inventor of the Tesla coil, the creator of radio, a fact legally recognized in 1943, giving him precedence over Marconi, the designer of the first hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls, the developer of turbines, and the creator of the first X-ray image, among many other achievements, was an unusual man. He was reclusive, avoided women, and was obsessed with mysticism and numerology. In the end, he died bankrupt, abandoned by society. Many of his discoveries were either left unused because they were too advanced for their time, or destroyed, as Tesla realized that humanity could not be trusted with such destructive power. For example, he claimed to have invented death rays, a technology capable of halting an entire army by bombarding a region with an invisible yet deadly energy field. Neutron? Poles? We don't know. He died in poverty. A man who spent $2,000 feeding pigeons passed away destitute. The FBI confiscated his documents and blueprints. Several trunks containing his possessions were sent to Yugoslavia, where the Nikola Tesla Museum now stands in Belgrade. His homeland takes pride in him, though debates continue over whether he was Serbian or Croatian. One thing is clear, he was a seer, a lonely genius.